Go.
Alright, this is Miss Marinas and Miss Brosh. And we're making a continuation video of the lesson plans that we were talking about last time and planning a week's lesson plans for author's purpose involved with the story The Secret Garden. Alright, Miss Brosh, thank you for coming in and continuing this meeting with me today. Go ahead and tell me some things about what you taught for the week of about when we were trying to work on author's purpose and some activities that you did.
Okay. I have used the graphic for the author's purpose. That way they still had that as a visual to know what we were talking about. We did some shared reading. I did little mini, observations and assessments through observation with them at the table as they come up in small groups, just to see if they are comprehending. Because after we did the shared reading, I had them read independently to see if they could still remember the story. Of course, this was the next day.
Right. Okay, and can you explain to me how every teacher kind of does shared reading a little bit differently? I know that, me compared to another teacher in the same grade level compared to you and things like that. So can you explain to me how you're doing your shared reading?
Okay, when I did my shared reading, I start off reading and then I will ask somebody else to come in and read.
Okay.
And then we kind of go around the room that way. That's what I considered shared reading.
So you're taking volunteers or things like that.
Yes.
But you're giving students the opportunity to read and to examine the text and be comfortable with it before they start reading out loud with their peers.
Yes.
Okay, so so you're doing you did the shared read. What I'm hearing you say is that you did the shared reading of the text and you got familiar with it, and then you then they read it independently, and then so what did they do at the end of the week?
Okay.
What kind of activities and things?
The activities were, we were able to watch the video. So that did help a lot, even though I think in some cases it confused some of my kids. Because when I started asking more questions about not the comparisons of it, but when I started asking questions that happened in the book, it was like, well, the dog was there.
Right.
And the dog wasn't. And I was like, no, that was in the movie.
Right.
So we have to keep them separate. That way we're able to know what the book is telling us and not what the movie is. And
Right.
I reiterated that the movies are not made like the books are written. Exactly. There's always something added or stuff taken away, so you can't rely on those.
Right.
So, but I think it's also the difference in my group of kids compared to the other class.
Right. So obviously the reading of the same text multiple times gives them familiarity with the text, but then also you said that you used some graphic organizers and things like that.
We did do a Venn diagram, of course.
Okay, and you did a Venn diagram. Okay, so how do you think that those graphic organizers can help students in resource and can be used to help support the lesson?
Okay, visuals are a big thing for a lot of the children that I have, and as long as they can see it, and even as we write it down, even if it's together or I'm just telling them write this and they write it. Most of the time I use my projector and they follow me on the projector.
The camera.
Yes. But having that visual for a lot of them is a key thing for them because they can see it. It's actually in what we say black and white.
Right.
And they have it there if they need it. I also have them write in their journals.
Okay.
We have our vocabulary words written in our journals. So I did that so it would help with retention of the meanings of those words.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you, I know that we talked about integrating some vocabulary, but so how did you you said that you used their journals to help them with their vocabulary?
Yes. My big thing, even when I was growing up, I had to write all of my stuff down. And if I wrote it down and even wrote it maybe 2 or 3 times, it would help me remember it.
Right.
So that's what I was telling them, and I started doing with them. So they're able to write it down. Then they know, oh, I've got this word in my journal. Then I can go back and look.
Right.
That's the reason I started using it.
And then I assume that you took like a quick assessment of the vocabulary or something like that.
Yes.
How did that go?
It went okay. Not as well as I was hoping, but I'm plan on doing a retest too, and we're gonna keep going over the words. And I even did the words like how we would use them in everyday
Right.
life.
Simplifying the
Relate it to
vocabulary.
something. Yes.
Right.
We had to relate it to something so they would, you know, automatically think, oh, well, this was related to this incident in my life.
Right, and like I know, like even with my students, having that, sometimes we don't just copy the dictionary definition, we copy the, we copy like a simplified definition and stuff like that. So that helps, and even like drawing the picture and stuff like that can sometimes help. But I did have a suggestion for you on the vocabulary, and I was thinking about this after, you know, we had discussed, and I think I'm going to try to integrate that even in my class, is having the students, after we've done the words, and then we've written the words, and then the next day, like, drawing pictures with the words, let the students play, like, charades, and have them draw a vocabulary word, and then they have to act it out without talking, and have the kids guess what and have, like, a word bank on the board, and have them guess what the vocabulary word is. The other thing I was gonna suggest is to let them play headbands, where some people have the word and some people have the definition, and they have to try to get clues to match the partner. You know, you have a group, because you have a group of students, and they each have a headband, but they don't know what's on their headband. So then you have to give me clues like, like if my word was matted, a vocabulary word that we had, saying something like, a dog's hair after they've been rolling in the dirt, or my hair when I first wake up from before I go to school, or something like that, to where they're like thinking about it, but they're also like interacting with it. And maybe let them play, like Monday give them the definitions, and then Tuesday let them like practice them and like maybe add some pictures or something like that, and then Wednesday and Thursday and Friday morning before you test them, like let them play like charades or headbands or something like that, and then, or even do like a snowball fight where they write the word, and then you write and then they have to throw it across the room, and somebody has to get the definition, and then they have to call out the word that they think it is, just so that they're playing more games, and they're really interacting with those words.
Now, on the headbands one, just a quick question. The person that has the definition, they get to read it, the definition, or is it both up here?
They're both up here, and they have to act it out.
Okay.
So the person that has the definition, like if it's like twisted or tangled mess, then they would have to say like, like this, and it's all knotted up, and they can give clues, but they can't say the exact definition.
Gotcha.
And then the person that has the word, they have to try to guess and match up with the definition.
Okay.
And so some people will have the word, and some people will have the definition. And the goal is to talk to each person in the group until the pairs match up. Okay. Oh, you sound like you have a tangled mess, and I have the word matted. So we're partners.
Right. Okay.
And then they like give each other a high five, like that. And then you stand next to the partners, and then the kids help each other out, because what happens is some of the easier words match up faster, and then those other people have to help the ones that are left over find their pair.
Okay.
And so I was just thinking about fun ways to teach vocabulary, because that's a struggle that I noticed on our assessment, and I noticed on my vocabulary quiz and with yours, that the students had some trouble with increasing their vocabulary. And we saw some of that information on the NWEA. So even letting them, play headbands, and then like having them draw lines on a or like on a
Gotcha.
quick exit ticket, doing like a quick exit ticket where they have the word and then they draw a line to the definition, and then by Friday, then they have to match the word with the definition or something like that, so that they're constantly playing, or like I have, who has, or something like that.
Right. Something else I thought about earlier today was doing a scavenger hunt.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
like
in the
placing the
room.
words in the room,
Yeah.
and then they're trying to match the definitions and things like that.
Yes.
Or even like giving each kid a card with like the definition on it, and they have to go, you say, all right, matted, and they have to go find where the word matted is in the room and go stand in that spot.
Right.
Or something like that. So we talked a little bit about vocabulary assessment, and what I hear you saying is that you took like a comprehension assessment at the end, but is there any other forms of assessment that you did or thought about could do for next time, between the beginning of the week and the end of the week, or the beginning of the unit and the end of the unit, to see about the author's purpose?
Okay, with that, we mainly just talked about it throughout the whole time that we read. So we were always talking about how the author makes things seem real. Like somebody could actually have this garden and not go into it, and somebody could find a key to it and think it's their own world kind of thing. So I tried to keep relating that author's purpose in with what we were talking about during the time that we would read or talk about the story.
Right. I thought about too, like, one way maybe is another way to kind of do like an exit ticket or like a quick check is to make copies of some of the paragraphs or something like that, or even sentences, and cut them up.
To the office, please, with his things. Christopher Coronado to the office with his things.
Cut them up, and then have the different purposes, and have them sort the paragraphs with a buddy. Like, so, these two paragraphs, this one's talking about her jump roping and how she's having a great day, and this one's talking about how she, opened the door with the key. Those are entertaining, and then, and giving like little samples of the story, but cut up.
Okay.
So that they're like still remembering the story, but they're matching like the purpose. Because we're trying to review the purpose and the craft of it, and we want to understand their comprehension, but we don't want to have to wait until a unit assessment, which could be a couple weeks from now, or even at the end of the week, to just see if they're understanding or not, and then we can review. So overall, what do you think was successful this week? And what do you think I can help you with to improve for our next unit or our next activity?
As for something new to help, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. But I really think with the games and the vocabulary, that's going to be, I think, a good focus for me, because my students need that extra vocabulary.
Right.
And a lot of them, I think the games would be great for them. And I just can't believe I didn't think of it sooner, but I'm glad you're here. That's why we're here.
Right, absolutely. And I thought of it because I saw it on another webinar that I was watching from somebody else. So we always learn from other people.
Yes,
But
definitely.
but I know that, and that kind of transitions into our assessments, our formal assessments. I know that, like, for progress monitoring on MTSS, on my NWEA, on my unit assessment, all of my students were low in vocabulary. And I think, as we look at our assessments, I think that that's something that's been found across the board. So if we can integrate more vocabulary.
Would you please come to Ms. Nelson's office? Thank you.
If we can integrate some more vocabulary activities and kind of getting away from, I think that one of the issues is getting away from just the copying of the definitions and then giving the quiz on Friday.
Right.
I think that that changing up the method of it is gonna help. The other thing I was thinking of is creating like doing games and like matching with the academic vocabulary, like analyze and conclude and infer, and taking some of those like words that are on the assessments that we like always see, that the kids see and they're like, I don't know what to do, you know, so then they just guess, like playing games with those words like charades or like even like matching or headbands or something like scavenger hunts and stuff like that, with some of those routine academic vocabulary words, because we know overall as a campus that our campus is struggling with vocabulary. Not just myself and you, but our entire school. And that's something that we can improve on for all the subjects, is to make a conscious effort to really focus on especially that testing vocabulary.
Yes.
Because we know that our students don't always come in with that enriched vocabulary. And so that's something that we can work on. The other thing that I noticed when we were looking at your unit assessment last time is that we talked about, so we have a way to improve our vocabulary, and then another target that we can work to improve on is the 5.6F, which is making inferences. How have we taught making inferences so far? Because we know that that's something that we're gonna continue to like spiral back around.
Yes.
And so explain to me a little bit about how we've taught that making inferences so far, and then we can kind of talk about some ideas for future lessons, because we know every unit is going to come back around.
Yes.
And every unit they have trouble with it.
Yes.
Your
my
resource,
kids-
regular ed students, you know, inclusion students, all the students on our campus. That's a low score.
It's-
Vocabulary and inferencing are the low scoring
Right.
standards for our
And mine, they keep
level.
confusing the inferencing with the predictions,
right.
because those are real close.
Mhm.
But
And you
they-
have to infer to make a prediction, but not
Yes.
every prediction is an inference. So
Exactly.
it's like, so they get
so
mixed up. I see.
trying to explain that in a sense that is easy for them, I've been having trouble with,
Mm-hmm.
because I have reworded it I don't know how many times, and I've got my stuff around my walls, like I have
Your anchor charts and
yes,
things
anchor
like that.
charts
Yeah.
up, and I have to tell them, let's read the anchor chart again,
Uh-huh.
see what the difference is,
Right.
and now we're gonna reread this passage and we're gonna try again. So we go through that motion several times, but it's still, there's something that I'm missing that they're not understanding the way I'm telling them and
Mhm.
the way I'm teaching it.
Right.
So that's gonna be something that I'm gonna
So maybe
definitely help with.
continuing with some graphic organizers and things like that, of having them write. Have you tried modeling with some sentence stems on the differences? Like, at the beginning, I predict that the story is going to be about a garden,
Mhm.
and then I can infer that she is hot because her cheeks were red. Like pointing out some examples in the text, and then I think that one way to improve that is to use some sentence stems
Okay.
and like have them even write it with you.
Mhm.
You can do a shared writing, like I predict that, and then do a blank line and have them just fill in what. And I know that like for me, when we were doing our annotations,
Mhm.
like before we started reading, we did, I predict that the secret garden will be about, and then I let them finish it.
Mhm.
And then as we're going through the text, you can even say, I infer that, and then tell them, okay, what are 3 clues that help you figure that out?
Right.
Because infer just means to figure it out. What can we
Yeah.
figure out? And then, so like I would even stop on the side of the text on a couple, in a couple of spots and have them write, I infer that, or I conclude that this is what's gonna happen. And so then I think that might help them with the confusion, and then just more repetition of it, because
Yes.
like I said, that our students they're struggling with inferring, and that is a hard standard for them to understand. The other thing I was thinking of was even like bringing it back and making it simplified, like bring a plastic sack and say, oh, I picked up this trash on the way on, outside my dumpster or whatever, and I can't figure out where it came from, and just like pulling out clues, or, oh, I saw this bag and I can't, or this purse or whatever, and I can't figure out whose it is. Let's figure out who it might be, and like, and then you're like, you pull stuff out and they're like, oh, it's a ID badge, but you don't use yours, of course.
Right.
You're like, oh, it's a badge, or it's a watch, or it's a keys, or whatever. What do you know about this person? Oh, they're a teacher because they have a teacher badge. Oh, they have school keys, or oh, they, or they have running shoes, so they must go running. They must like to work out, or or I'm thinking even like, and then like doing that activity like, several times with more and more clues in the bag, so that they can, as they're pulling out things, they can make inferences about, whose it is.
Right.
Like today we were reading a story and they had to infer where he was going, and they talked about how he had to bring, he drove far away and he had to bring a sleeping bag and a flashlight and swim trunks for the lake and things like that. Oh, he must be going camping. Or like even bring some things that you like, and have the students say, oh, I was busy on the weekend and I threw my bag in the car and I forgot to take it home with me the other day. So, and I brought it with me to school. Let me, let's look into my bag and figure out, what it is, what stuff is in there, or something like that.
Keegan Edwards to the office, please. Keegan Edwards to the office.
Because I feel like too, even like they're always curious about us, and the more that we, the more we can kind of tell them about ourselves, maybe they'll find something that they can relate to or something like that.
Yes.
So we talked about, excuse me, we talked about inferring, we talked about vocabulary, and then how do you feel like they are understanding the author's purpose part of it?
That's touch and go. Sometimes they can get one real good. Like the entertaining has been the easiest one for them.
Right.
So the persuade and that kind of thing, if they see it on TV, they know it's that, because they're trying to get us to buy stuff. And
Right.
Yes. So if you're reading it on paper, is it going to be the same?
Right. You have to play that commercial in your mind.
Yes. Yes. So I said, just like I've told them with reading's like going to a different place. As you read a book, you kind of go to that different place. So it's all part of that. But yeah, the entertain has been the easiest one for them to learn, and the inform and persuade are kind of, I guess, too close. Even
right.
And
then trying to get them to say, okay, is it informed because they're describing something?
Yes.
Is it informed because they're explaining something?
Yes.
And then I think the best thing is to just show them real life examples. Like, I was thinking like, bring in a cookbook or something like that. Oh, well, this is explaining to me how to make, this recipe. If I follow all these steps, I can make this. As opposed to, or like, give them a story, like even take a picture of, bring in the Haagen-Dazs box or whatever, and it's like, this is the steps to how to make a cake, and then bring in a story about a birthday cake. Like, oh, like this is a story about Sally and how she, went to visit her grandma's for her birthday, and then this is talking about the steps to making a birthday cake. And kind of just putting them next, like real life examples next to each other, and then maybe like playing a clip, like a commercial, like you were saying, a commercial of like, buy cake from, you know, Baskin Robbins. They have, you know, they make the best desserts. That you know, their desserts are so yummy, or something like that. And so it's just like kind of contrasting the different ones in front of them, and just repeating the examples. I would say, but I think that you're off to a really great, I think that we're off to a really great start. I'm glad that from the time that we actually started planning to the time that we made the assessments and things like that, we were able to successfully, help the kids
Dylan and Reese
understand.
Lopez to the office, please. Dylan and Reese Lopez to the office.
We were able to understand that, or the kids were able to understand that the author writes for a reason, and that they, as the reader, are an important part of having the story. Because if the reader is not engaged in the story, or if the reader is not getting the information, or if the reader is not buying the shoes or whatever it is, then the author didn't do what their goal was.
Right.
And so I think that just continuing to spiral the purposes and things like that, and then and I think that also targeting that vocabulary will definitely increase, especially playing those games with the academic language, that tier 2 vocabulary words, and especially the testing vocabulary will help a lot with our student success and what we want them to accomplish between our major assessment this in the unit before this, and our assessment at the end of this unit, when we're done talking about both author's purpose and the craft of it. And that's where we're going to build on for our next unit, is talking about the author's craft.
Okay.
So I think that we have some great ideas of some things that worked really well. I think that we have some ideas of some things that we're going to keep working on, and some things that we're going to just continue to spiral to improve on, because we know that the students need that repetition, and they need that continuation and confidence. So I just wanted to tell you thanks for sitting down with me again and continuing to talk about assessments and planning. And I think that we're off to a great start. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.